What's the future of home prices? National home prices are up almost 2% annually, as freshly released by Case-Shiller. 7 metros are down, 13 are up, led by New York City, up 7%. This continued nominal price appreciation, this frustrates the bejesus out of those perpetually wrong crash predictors. I mean, they have been wrong even longer than the people waiting for flying cars to show up. Do we really still have a housing shortage? And is there a case for home prices to rise even higher over the next year? Stick around and watch this video until the end, because I'll answer all of those questions and more. Hi, I'm Keith Weinhold, Get Rich Education founder, Forbes Real Estate Council member, longtime real estate investor, and see my work in the USA Today. Every year, some people like to scare you into a different reason on why housing will collapse, or why you should not invest in cash flowing properties, like rising interest rates, or inflated prices, or forbearance, or the pandemic, or a recession. Well, all that time, you keep being robbed of the opportunity to better yourself. All right, well, first, let's look at history over all of these hunches. Sourced by Shiller, here's the nominal change in housing prices every year since 1950, the last 75 years. You'll see that prices only fell significantly one time. That was during the 2008 global financial crisis, when we had irresponsible loans made to irresponsible borrowers and a massive glut of housing supply. We're in the opposite condition today. This 75-year history is something that you don't see very often, and you might want to save it. And of course, that includes periods of many recessions. All right, well, what about the future of housing prices? Well, no one truly knows the future. Whenever you have lower jobs numbers like we've had this year, that does not portend well. It sure doesn't correlate with high home price appreciation. You need to have a job and an income to buy a home and propel home prices forward. We've had almost 100,000 jobs slashed from the federal government payroll this year alone, and lower jobs numbers, that is surely a headwind to future home price appreciation. Let's take a look at the longer view. Today, America has 7.2 million more jobs than we did in pre-pandemic times. That is 4 to 5% more jobs that we have now than we did at the beginning of 2020, and our population hasn't grown that much. The unemployment rate is below 5%, and it has been for a long time, still historically high employment then. Now, a lot of these added jobs, though, they have been lower wage jobs, and for quite a while now, as you see here, wage growth, the red line, has exceeded the blue line, which is the rate of official CPI inflation. And since CPI is often understated, this might not be real wage growth, only nominal. So it's very much a mixed bag on the employment picture, perhaps a little more negative, in fact, than positive. All right, let's look more at the demand for housing, and then we'll look at supply. And this should give you the best idea that you've had in quite a while on the future of home prices. First, go ahead and put a like on the video if you like how I'm breaking it down so far. Thanks for the thumbs up. I also write a weekly newsletter where I share investor insights before they hit the headlines. More on that later. As we know, higher home prices and higher mortgage rates recently conspired to create the worst homebuyer affordability conditions since the 1980s. Because though wages might be keeping up with inflation, they haven't kept up with the meteoric growth in home prices over the past 5 years. That period could very well be over now, and this might be a big deal. In this cycle, this era, mortgage rates hit a peak of nearly 7.8% in late 2023. They are well below that now, and they've really been falling lately. Here's why this is becoming significant and super interesting. Just compared to when rates were 7%, per the NAR, 2.8 million more Americans now qualify to buy a home at a mortgage rate of 6.5%. 5.5 million more will qualify at 6%, and 7.7 more at 5.5%. Wow! Now, of course, not every newly qualified buyer will pounce on a home, but if only a fraction do, can you imagine how this demand increase will stoke prices? It releases the pent-up demand that we've had. All right, that's the demand side. What about supply? As we look at the active listing count, basically this is available homes for sale. There are still just over 1 million homes available today. That's well up off the bottom, but it's still below the 1.5 million plus that we had pre-pandemic. Lower mortgage rates have the propensity to unleash pent-up demand. But there's more to it than that. What about supply? Now, do we really have a housing shortage or not? Here's what matters. As you can see here, the real problem is that starter home availability and starter home construction is still sagging, and it has ever since the global financial crisis. This chart shows it even better. A starter home is defined as being less than 1,400 square feet. The share of them being built is only 9% of all new homes. And starter homes are usually what make the best rental single-family homes. So that's where the chronic undersupply is really being felt. I mean, if you can own these, you're going to own an asset that everybody wants to own and everybody needs to rent. I and a lot of our viewers own many of these sort of modest single-family homes that we rent out. So not only are mortgage rates at fresh lows, inventory choices, though they're still historically low, they're now at a 6-year high, all while there's less buyer competition. Today's buyer conditions could be like catching an Uber the moment that the surge pricing ends. And now that 100% bonus tax depreciation is effective again, you can put tens of thousands of extra dollars into your pocket in the year that you put a new rental property into service. But to give you a clear, satisfying answer about the questions I've posed, housing demand is on the rise, and supply, although up off its historic 2022 low, that supply is still low, especially in starter homes. Home prices are up about 2% year over year, and for the future I expect more growth in prices, though still at a low rate, with all this pent-up demand potentially being released and better affordability. And the bottom line is that you're in the best position in more than 5 years to find the right property while still avoiding a bidding war. But of course, you'll pay more for it than you did 5 years ago. If you want my very best strategies where I share weekly investor insights before they hit the headlines, grab my free newsletter at greletter.com. Though I believe that predicting future mortgage rates is a fool's errand, you'll remember that in December of last year, I forecast that home prices would appreciate this year. I even boldly stated the exact percent. Watch that now, right here.